but the topic is the underdog versus the favorite. And most players are each of these things in our little journey. You know, you're the underdog if you're a mid-level ranked player and you run into Smug on a CPT online event or something. Or you're in ranked as a diamond player and you get matched up with a UGM player or a Warlord player, someone way higher than you that you kind of know that you have to step out of your bounds to beat. Or maybe not. Or you're a good player in your scene who hasn't really gotten their name out there yet and you go up against the fucking local alpha. We all have those times. Anyone who's a competitive player has run into those times where you're not the favorite. You know that you're going to have to... It's an upset if you win. If it's an upset when you win, then you're the underdog. But we're the favorite sometimes too. Maybe you're one of the better players in your scene and you're on stream versus one of the people who play only casually. And they never beat anyone. Or you're an ultra plat and most of the people you play are a lower rank than you. You can consider yourself maybe the favorite there. Or maybe you're just the best player in your house and you beat the shit out of your brother all the time. But whatever side of the match you're on, whether you're the underdog or the favorite, you kind of get a feeling of it before it happens. Even if you don't let it affect your gameplay. You know? If Views enters NLBC and Spaceboy is their first game, they're oh god, Spaceboy, here we go. You know, I remember when I was a lower ranked player, I would run into a UGM or something in ranked and I would just play like I was fucking top 8. You breathe, you do your UGM, here we go. It's not so crazy anymore because of how many of them there are, but still you would kind of put the pedal to the metal whenever you ran into like a really high ranked player. Or I remember way back in the day when I was gold and I saw Arturo with a battle lounge and he was, or maybe I was silver, he was like plat and plat was really high and I remember everyone wanted to play him. It was crazy. Plat was like top level shit. As you can imagine, for the underdog, you could see it as a moment of dread, or like a moment, your chance to shine, or both. You know, you kind of don't really want to get your ass whooped, or you kind of think of it as, you know, this is my moment where I can really pull a big upset and change some opinions. Or you get bopped and forgotten. You know, just like that. Oops, you lose. You were supposed to lose. Because as the underdog, you're expected to lose. That's the expectation. You're most likely expected to lose. So if you do lose, you're just kind of doing what everyone expected. But you also got to know there's a chance you can win. And you got to be on your A game to do it. And that's where like the real pressure comes in. Because you got to play better than you normally do. On top of being like as nervous as you are being the underdog with your chance to really make an impact. I don't know if all you guys have something like that, but it doesn't have to be like the best player in this tournament and you overcame them and got top 3 or whatever. I'm talking about just it could be like a very personal moment. Like I had a first to 10 a long time ago, long time ago, versus this guy Gorilla Cat. He was a gold Ryu player and I was really low rank, and he was up 7-2 and then 8-3, and I just something clicked in my head and I came all the way back and won the rest of the games. I don't know if that actually is related at all. That was my first time overcoming someone who always beated me, and it's like something clicked in my head and I overcame it. You know, and he was a higher. I think I was probably super bronze at the time or something. I can't remember where I was, but I just remember that being a huge pivotal moment in my Street Fighter career. You know? It's totally different being the favorite. A totally different ball game. Maybe you guys have all been the favorite too when you for example, actually, I don't want to call Glitter out, but just recently in her tournament, I feel like she probably expected to beat a particular character or player, and she probably felt like if she just played her game, she should be able to overcome. Well, actually, she didn't really sound too confident, but you're the favorite when you're the higher ranked, the more known. Glitter's known in these tournaments, and she had a diamond badge next to her name. So, you know, you're the favorite in that situation. You're more likely expected to win by most people. And so, because you're expected to beat this person, you could be more credited, or you beat this person every time, or maybe they're just known for being garbage. Who knows? But as the favorite, you know in you somewhere that you're expected to win, so a loss is going to be harder when it happens. And it can be super hard depending how big of an upset it is. Maybe you guys have heard this before. Probably my biggest upset was when I was in Red Bull, Minnesota, and I went up against a totally no-name Falk player, and I had been watching him, and I wasn't impressed. I was like, okay, I got this guy. As long as I do my damn thing, we're going to beat this guy. And I lost, and I already felt like it was an upset. I didn't need anyone to tell me that. But then when I looked behind me and I saw Maureen with her face like this, I realized what had just happened. You know, I was a better player. I was using the better character. I was more composed. I was very composed, very comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. You know? Did I cry? No. Was I literally one word away from crying? Oh, yeah. Better believe it. But I didn't play him like he was on my level. I played him with the mindset, if I just do my thing, I'm good. And that match was for top 8, actually. And he played like it was for top 8. He put the pedal to the metal, and I made a few crucial mistakes, and just like that, I lost to someone who I felt like I wasn't supposed to lose to. And you have a right to think that, but it's not. I'm not saying it's incorrect, or I'm not saying it's a good way to think. I'm just saying, if you know that you are a far better player than someone else, you should feel comfort and confidence knowing that if you were to give it your best, and they give it their best, you should win. But the problem was, I don't know if I gave it my best. I can't leave that match saying I played my best. But the important thing about Street Fighter V is whether you're the favorite or the underdog in a situation, this game does not allow for complacency. It doesn't allow for you to just do your thing and I'm good all the time. You have to play at your high level as much as you can, because anyone could just snake it from you. For example, after I did Light Tatsu Demon, but I did it a frame early, missed it, died. I just gave away my whole thing. I didn't need to do that. But I just thought he even told me after, he's like, I didn't read that demon. I didn't jump. You did it too early. I'm like, oh God, don't tell me that, you bitch. Because that was for the game too. So, you know, it's just a different type of pressure. And I think the pressure changes as the game goes on. I think initially, right when the match starts, the underdog is the more pressured one. But then when the underdog starts to gain on the favorite, the tides change and there's way more pressure on the favorite, because then the favorite has to now already kind of imagine the idea of them losing or getting upset really bad. And I'm not saying people don't overcome this, or this is a thing that you just inevitably have to deal with. Some people are really good about staying in the match no matter what. Those are champion or high level players who can, doesn't matter what rank you are, doesn't matter what level player you are, they can play you as if you're on the same level. We're playing the same game. You have the same amount of character power most of the time. You're in a situation where you can just rob me. I'm not gonna screw around and pretend like I can't lose right now. So the pressure's just different. And I felt both of them, and I have to say, yeah, no matter what position you're in, you have to play the same. You have to give every game. You have to play every game serious, and that's the takeaway from this whole situation. So before I move on to the next topic, let's see if any of you guys has anything to say about that. Alex says, when I go against higher ranked players, I just think nowadays, okay, gotta focus, rather than, oh boy, me against the top player. But both times I'd always be excited, especially if it was a major. Integra used to prefer being underdog, less pressure. You expect because you're not expected to win, right? So losing is just part of the thing. But I think if you're a really competitive, serious player, that's not how you look at it. Anytime I ran into someone who I felt like was supposed to beat me in a tournament, I don't think to myself like, oh, well, if I lose this one, it's not a big deal. I want to win every fucking time, you know? Gooder said that's what I was saying earlier. I play better when I'm expected to lose than when I'm expected to win. I did see you say that. Kevin Malone Chili says, to me, it's just, damn, I gotta deal with this character's BS now. View says, I think it's worse for the favorite because if he loses, it will never end. The thing is, it's a different kind of pressure. Even if the favorite feels very comfortable, if they're a good player, strong player, they're not screwing around. Mag says, yeah, I really not try not to have expectations for myself. I think I'm capable of winning, but I don't want to just assume it and have a bunch of preconceived notions about how the match is going to go. It's hard to, right? It's really important to set your ego aside when you know you're a better player than this person. Every sign points to, I'm better than this player. I know I am, so there's no way they can beat me. That last part is the fault. So there's no way they can beat me. That's in this game or in real life. UFC, how many knockout upsets do you guys have to see before we all realize that a loss is one bad move away? Salt comes from losing to someone you expect to beat for sure, JMC says. Salt comes from a lot of places, including being close to winning against someone that you thought you should beat, because you can... I've mentioned that sometimes I'd rather get my ass beat than get as close as I've gotten to beating Art, although that's not the case, because when I get my ass beat, it just sucks no matter what. Alex Noah says, so that Falk player was the opposite of you beating Rob TV in Chicago? Yes, you have to be ready for both situations. That was the time of my life beating Rob, and that was the worst Street Fighter time of my life. It was a month after losing in Minnesota, because I had set the bar so high for I could beat Rob TV on stream. This Falk off stream ain't gonna do shit to me. I went into that tournament thinking like, I can beat these motherfuckers for sure, and then I lose in pools. Ego, baby. So you didn't take your opponent seriously? It's not that. I played with all I got. I wasn't like, I just lost. There was no ego involved, but I did dread the loss before it happened because I was the favorite in my head and in their head too. Like I think people expected me to go far in that tournament only to get bopped, you know? Glitter says, I imagine myself losing while playing the match. Yeah, that's the worst. That means we're not really in it. That happens to me all the time. You could picture the loss. Flux Waves. That happened to me versus Flux Waves. I could already picture like, oh, just getting weaseled out. Oh, here we go. I'm already in the middle of the match like this. Rich asks, if an underdog beats you, does that shake your confidence? Yes. Integor says, I used the expectations as motivation to win without having the pressure of letting my people down. I never really think about letting people down. Even if I've been doing these NLBCs that I've been kind of mentioning, like, you know, you guys motivate me to push it. It's at the end of the day, I have to deal with my losses and my wins. And, you know, I don't think people think differently than me. Like, if I were to be in a tournament and, let's say, for example, I go 0-2 at NLBC, you guys aren't going to think differently than me. It's just, that's not my, you know, fuck you. Oops, maybe next time. I'm capable of losing to anyone, Mag says, but I feel like if I play at my best, I can beat anyone too. That's the way I look at it. That's ultimately what's going on too. No one is impossible to beat. No one's impossible. Idom is pretty close, but he still has his off days, his off moments. He makes a huge mistake. Ralaine says, Ralaine, I don't know how to say that name, sorry. You should always focus on current opponent regardless of skill gap and not looking ahead. That's how upsets happen in all things. These things can happen without that too, but of course you should always, and actually this whole assuming that people are on the same level than you, some people say you should assume every player is garbage until they prove you otherwise. I don't like that, and I don't like expect your opponent to be really, really good. I think you should tread lightly. The optimal way would be to tread lightly, see what's going on immediately, and then kind of make an assessment from there. Okay, this Idom does that. He started off the game with fucking MK heel kick, poison kick your ass, or whatever one's punishable. He started off with that. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Just to see, you know, he's just putting information in my head. So now I'm thinking like, okay, he's gonna do that. Then he never does it again. This guy's like, Idom is constantly taking down notes in his head of, okay, didn't punish that, but I'm not gonna do it again. But like, he just constantly is filling your head with things. Should I worry about this? Should I worry about this? And then he never does the things again, or he keeps doing it, and you never know which one he's gonna do. He's so good at giving you bad information. He's so good at it. He's probably the best at it. I have to say, he's probably the best at giving you bad information. That's why I can't listen to him. Okay, anything else before we move on to the next topic of training strategies? Now, you guys might think training strategies is like a structure to set yourself by, and that is what it is. But this is just a few different types of ways to train when you don't know where to go and or you want to make a lateral move. And I'm actually gonna put this on the screen real quick. But I'm going to read them out loud so the audio version can hear it too, of course. But let's go over those are my previous notes, but we're focused on this part right here. Okay? Actually, let me minimize this real quick. That's so much text. It's actually crazy. Okay, here we go. Okay? Making any of these things that your primary focus. We've talked, this one I've brought up a lot. Move or tech removal training. You take a move or a setup you depend on out of your arsenal. I've been doing that a lot lately, as you guys know. But this also helps with, you know, I had that setup on crouch heavy crush counter. I try to take it out just because I found out how reliant I am on it. If you watch your own gameplay and realize that you're really reliant on something, you need to take it out completely in order to make sure that you don't use it on accident, because your bad habits come out when the pressure is high. So you need to always train with that in mind, that any bad habit I have that I feel like I can leave out for a game or two, those are going to surface in big time situations. So the only way for me to effectively not use forward heavy punch in a high level, high pressure tournament situation is to make sure I never use it. Because as the old adage goes, you play the way you train. So if you're doing the same shit every time you're training, that's exactly what it's going to look like when you're in a big time situation. One I implemented in a training session recently was a time-based one. And we've talked about this before, how the average round duration for any skill level, if you were to average it out, I'm sure it's something like 69 seconds, like a 30-second match. So if you just center your primary focus around making it go below 40 seconds, it actually changes the way you play in your game plan. And anything that can make you transition the way you're thinking is a good thing. That's what these are all based on. That's what all these different training modes are based on. Changing the way you think. Slowing yourself down, maybe playing neutral a little bit more, maybe not being so EX heavy, whatever heavy. All these things can change when you're in a time, when you're time oriented, making time your primary focus. Then there's the one that you guys probably do the most, or most people do the most, is a move or tech edition, when you focus your gameplay strictly around adding this new thing that you learned, a new setup, a new hit confirm, a new combo, a new situation, a new matchup, specific thing that you know, like, oh, when this person does this, I'm going to do this. It's new. That's probably the number one thing that people inadvertently, maybe not even inadvertently, they just do it. Or as I say here, or just get that one fucking plenish. I'm gonna just drill that into Patty's head until she listens. Another way you could play is without V-trigger. This is going to implement more defense and less dependency on a comeback factor and more V reversals. I've never done that. Win with CA. Okay, so it says right there, for those with meter management issues, you can set up a game plan around winning with CA. And you wonder why that's important? Not just for meter management, but for me, whenever I recommended people to win with CA, I do this in my training sessions sometimes, try to win with CA. Winning with CA forces you to implement a game plan, because now you need to find a way to win. And so if you've always had problems coming up with a game plan, starting off with something like win with CA is a good one, because then you're actively thinking about how to save your meter and approach the situation for the end in which you end with critical art. That's like the beginning of a good game plan. Akuma is a perfect example because he wins with critical art a lot. But if you're setting up the situation, so if I see that he's one throw away from critical art damage, critical art kill, then I'll throw, and then I can set up the crouch medium kick fireball super or dash demon or whatever the situation might be. It's the first part of a game plan, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, because I just don't think people admit that they don't go into matches with game plans. I know this because I've just recently been trying my hardest to really formulate things, and it's just until relatively recently, within this last year, that I've been really paying attention to overarching themes. So I know a lot of you guys are not walking into a match with game plans. You have an idea. He keeps doing fireballs, I'm going to do this. He keeps doing this, I'm going to do that. But you guys don't, a lot of you guys, and it's still, I'm working on it, as I mentioned, don't have like a fully developed sort of thing. And these are all pieced together parts of the puzzle. A lot of people just have their middle pieces, or maybe some people just have the corner pieces. Maybe the more fundamentally sound players just have the corner pieces, but they really haven't filled in on the matchup. But very rarely do people have a whole idea of the entire matchup or in the entire situation. So that to me is a good way to start, is winning with critical art. Just base it on that. It gives you something to work with. This only popped in my head because I've heard this in training sessions, is 1P or 2P side-based training. A lot of people tell me, and I forget about this, I used to only play Tekken on the left side because that's the only way I could do EWGFs, or I'm sorry, on the two-player side. I could only do EWGFs on the two-player side because I never practiced on the left side. So I would always pick the right side if I could, and if I was on the left side, I would always find out a way to get to the right side because I was more comfortable on that side. And that's bad. Do not do that. This should not even be a training mode thing, a training method thing. This should be something that you're doing regardless. If you're having problems doing something on a particular side of the screen, or just like playing in general, you need to go to the other side of the screen and fix that, because you cannot be at your highest potential on one side of the screen, because theoretically you're spending half the time on the other. So before anything, before any game plan, any tech, any this, if you can't do the same thing on both sides, just stop what you're doing and go back to that. There's self-cornering training. You intentionally put yourself in the corner to become more comfortable there. This is a big part of a lot of different ways you can train, intentionally finding yourself in situations so that you become more comfortable. The same thing with playing without V-trigger. You're purposely making yourself more on the receiving end, helping your defense. Same thing with self-cornering. You're intentionally putting yourself in a position where maybe you feel like you're weak at, or you have a hard time thinking that position. But the more you put yourself in that position, the more comfortable you'll become thinking while it's in there. I'm in this position all the fucking time, you know? Just as if you're a good wrestler, I assume that you want to be good on your back. There's no way of saying that without sounding weird, but you have to be good in those bad positions. And as JMZ Burger mentioned, no jump training. Probably another one that you guys have probably thought about before. I need to stop jumping. No jump training is really good. You just stay on the ground. You realize how much you jump when you're fighting off every urge to jump, and how hard it is to think about neutral, and how you're going to suffer big time. A lot of, especially low-level players, are going to suffer big time with this no jump training. It seems like every single one of Tokido's matches is no jump training. And this guy does not jump. Alex Noah says, me learning how to lightning loop 0 on both sides is a prime example of what you just stated. You got to do them on both sides, baby. No jump training. Jumping is risky, you know? It's a big reward. And people think, well, I get DP, that's not a big deal. But you just lose momentum, you lose a little bit of health, your situation. A lot of things suck about it. So those are all. If you guys could think of anything else that you could hone in on it. I only had a few minutes to think about this. But to me, what's up, Sevens? There's a lot of ways you can approach the game without having to sit in training mode, because I know a lot of you guys don't like, including myself, don't like to sit in training mode. This is a way you can keep playing the same way that you want to via ranked or just constant battle lounge and still get practice in, because you're putting yourself in a situation that you haven't thought about enough. Just like if the corners are really, you just have a hard time in the corner. Self-cornering puts you in a position enough to where you could start to formulate a game plan around that, and you're not so worried about losing anyway. If you're cornering yourself on purpose, you're not purposely, or you're not looking to win. You're looking to find out, how do I do better in this situation? All of these things are a good way to make your focus, take your focus off of winning and losing. You know? Because if you're taking moves out of your game, why are you should be trying to win, but you shouldn't be expecting to win. You know, you should be focused on not using that move and working around it and still trying to win. And if you fail, you should get upset with yourself and fix it. But all these things, playing past 40 seconds, adding a new move and just trying to get this, playing without V-trigger, that takes the focus off of winning the match and more on, I need to get better at the stuff that I suck at. Guitar Junkie had a good question. Let's scroll for this question. Sorry, I missed it. Did you tag my name? Can you give an example of a player character you have a full game plan against? Actually, most recently, I would have to say the people I play the most, like Rich, I pretty much have an exact idea of how I want to play him and his version of the character. But what's funny about that is it just doesn't work well against another character. So I'm glad you asked that, because it's more of a player-specific thing, how I come up with game plans, and then I base my character knowledge, or we don't really have a choice but to base our character knowledge around the players that we go up against or that we watch or whatever. So let me think of another example of someone who had a really good idea of... I have a really good game plan against Metro. I think... And then there's people who really challenge me, like BDN. I think I know what it takes to beat BDN. Or I feel like if my sole purpose was to beat BDN, I think I know exactly how to do it. But I can't beat him on my just standard, just play and just kind of learn as you go. But the people that force you to remember very specific things, and you can't beat them without that, those are the type of people you want to play too. Like, for example, last time I played BDN a long time ago, he said something about me walking forward and jabbing so much that he was doing this. And no one even ever pointed out that how much I walk forward jab. But now I have to base my game plan around not giving him what he's looking for. Find out what the opponent is looking for and don't give it to him. That's part of a game plan. You're just piecing together a bunch of things. It's when I say an overarching game plan, I don't necessarily mean here's the one answer. It's pieced together. It's more like a... I don't want to say like a Jenga set. What is it like, guys? It's like a sandcastle. I guess you're building up pieces, but then if you throw one piece down, the whole thing goes to shit. Could you explain win with CA? I have a hard time understanding that one. What is there to not understand about that? Card tower? Yeah, your game plan is a bunch of pieces of a particular player or character matchup that you put together, but also about your character as well, because you need to have all the knowledge of your character in order to optimize the answers to the problems that you have with this character. So it's imperative to know everything about your character on the highest level. But then you could just take what you work with. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by Drakaiser's good question. Hang on. You have more answers the more you know about your character. Simply put. Drakaiser says, I don't know how winning with CA help with meter management. Well, when you can't use meter because you want to save it for critical art, it forces you to not use meter when you normally would. You can't kill with CA and do EX Demon Flip all around. That's a way of managing your meter to save it to get that critical art. And that also teaches you that if you start off the round with critical art, you can afford to spend a meter or even two sometimes to still get critical art at the end. So you're managing your meter. It forces you to pay attention to it. Like Guitar Junkie, going back to the game plan thing, when you play against me, you make the same mistakes every time. A part of the game plan is not making that mistake. Your dash grabs work sometimes, and actually that's not even a part of your game that you need to take out. But there's other parts of that game that you could take out, and that could be a part of your game plan. Is okay, when I play a stack, he always punishes this. I'm not going to do this anymore. Here's one part of your game plan. He gets hit by dash grab when I do this, but not when I do this. And whenever I charge at V trigger, I make this happen, and he always does this. You got to piece them all together, and coming up with a game plan against me can help you against other Akuma players as well. Because you should be never doing the things that I'm punishing for anyway, probably. If I start with round with C, I usually spend it because I think I have enough time to build it again. Exactly. So you're keeping an awareness of your meter by forcing yourself to win with critical art. And as I mentioned before, it actually helps you with the game plan, because if you're basing it all around getting enough health to get the critical art, like let's say you chip their health down to here, you use meter to get them down a little bit further, but then you need to build that meter again. They come back a little bit, you activate V trigger, you get about right here, and then you know they're in the critical art range. And then you need to figure out how am I gonna hit critical art here? How am I gonna hit critical art here? Can I chip them out with critical art? Can I do crouch medium kick fireball critical art? Should I hit confirm stand fierce? Should I just get the jump in into combo critical art through a fireball on a jump in? It forces you to come up with that first part of your game plan, and that's why I always recommend that to people who have no idea about where do I even start with the game plan. You should be constantly assessing how your opponent is reacting to things that you're doing and how you're reacting to what they're doing, because they're doing the same thing to you. So if they do a fireball and after every fireball you backdash, they could notice that, or you forward dash, or they're forward dashing after every time they do a fireball. You gotta notice those things, and actually that's some things I have a problem with. Mag says, but just like Stack is saying, it's just most important to be thinking about things than not. Yeah, and it's not something that you should base your whole life around. You should just, if you're having problems with something in particular, then you apply this type of thinking. You know, if you're having if you notice that your rounds are ending really fast, either win or lose, because a lot of you guys probably have that playstyle where you either beat the person or you get your ass whooped. And the reason what that is usually is because you don't know how to turn off your momentum. That's why there's players out there who either win good or they get their ass beat. Because once you get that momentum going, it's good for you to ride it, and if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, you get steamrolled. That's a perfect example of people who can't control their momentum, is if you're always getting bopped or always bopping. That's the 30-second playstyle. You'll notice as you become more experienced in this game too, that your average time drops. My matches go below 40 seconds way more often now. I used to be 69 seconds every single time I played. And now I can look at the clock and it's usually like 40 seconds. There are some characters that kind of persuade you to play a certain speed as well. You know, Akuma, he can play all ways. He can play really slow and methodic, and he can also play bust quick too. I've never done self-cornering on purpose. That's an interesting one. 79% of the time. Any questions about this stuff? Or anyone miss anything about the first subject? Bison kind of forces you to play his pace. That's true. Minot pushes for slower pace game. That's also true. Same with there's characters also that just don't allow you to do things. Akuma versus Sagat is such a perfect example. Sagat does not let me play the way I want to play Akuma. He doesn't let you do it. He does not let Akuma play the way that Akuma encourages you to play him. Don't you like these tools, baby? Use them. So that's why that's what makes the matchup even, but feel difficult. Because you're forced to play Akuma in a way that you don't want to play him. Not even that you don't want to play him, but how the character fucking is designed to make you want to play him. Akuma, that he was designed, they want you to EXE him. They want you to do this. They want you to jump around. Why are you giving me so many air options if you don't want me to jump around all day? Sorry, Star Tropic, I saw your question earlier and forgot to respond. I asked about jumping. I usually stay on the ground, but what situations would you want to jump besides catching fireballs? Well, if you find yourself against an opponent who's not anti-airing, and they are or using an anti-air button, and you have a way, and you know what trajectory is going to beat it, that's a perfect example. Like, for example, Dhalsims who like to scoot under anti-airs, but I know that if I do jump light kick, it catches it. I'm doing a strategy-based jump. It's not just because I'm trying to jump to break to close the gap. I actually know that if I jump from this angle and do light kick, it's going to beat them. Or if I see a Poison who keeps doing crouch medium punch, then I'm going to do dive kick and beat it. So if you have a game plan around your jump in, that's totally different. I'm talking about these people who get right here and fucking just jump every single time. JMZ says jump beats heavy buttons neutral. It does, but that does require a bit of anticipation. It also beats stand medium, Akuma stand medium kick too. If they do stand medium kick and you're right here, you're getting the jump in on them. It's crazy. What's up, Sanford? Hey, maybe you can help me with this, Sanford. Mag says if you ask them why they jumped and they don't know, that's the issue. That's good. I have a few ways of training here, Sanford. Maybe you can help me out here. Let me close in on it. Can I zoom in on this? Yeah. Okay. Adding pieces to your gameplay, or taking away pieces rather, setups that you depend on. This is a really effective one. This is the only one I'm currently actively doing, is this one. Removing tech. Time base is a good one too. This self-cornering one, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. I like that one. Playing without V-trigger, aka Sanford's Utopia. Adding this, as I said before, this is the one you guys do the most, probably. Oh, what's up, Tega? Come on, guys. I know some of you guys are guilty in this chat. I know it. Don't lie. You can't do something on the two-player side. Don't fucking lie. Don't lie. Is winning without meter different from win without CA? Or win with CA? A little bit, because you cannot be spending meter and have critical art every round. Yes. But there are ways to manipulate it by using meter a little bit. And I think not using meter at all, the only problem with that is your opponent's going to catch on that you're not using meter, and it's going to make it unnecessarily difficult. But if you still have meter as a threat, at least they'll play you the same. Because the worst thing to do is have people know that you're trying to do something, or you're trying to experiment with something, you know? And they just screw up your quote-unquote training. Like, if you're doing a self-cornering practice, and all that your opponent sees you doing is walking back and pressing down back in the corner, that's not really cool. You're treating these guys as your fucking like training dummy without telling them. So in my opinion, if you're gonna do something like self-cornering, you're gonna cleverly, strategically put yourself in the corner and work from there and practice getting out, not fucking just hold down back and just be like, you know, be a jerk about it. Because who wants to play someone like that? So maybe I can't Tiger and EX Eagle Spike as well on the P2 side. So I've been training on the 2P side, just straight up working on the motion, always jumping on you on that side now. What do you think about no jump training, Sanford? You like that? I'm never going to play without V-Trigger. Because V-Trigger is such a big part of this game, but it would help me with V-Reversal. V-Reversal is still something I'm implementing, but I'm not as good at V-Reversaling as I am with other things, so. Drachydrator says, I mean for the self-cornering, it also helps with masking intent. Yeah, I mean, because you're just kind of being a jerk if you're just like, well, I'm just dicking around here. I guess in ranked, it's your points. You do what you want with your points. But like the moment I see someone doing something dumb in a ranked match, I'm like, man, what am I? Your fucking social, your science experiment? Get the fuck out of here. It's not the right way of thinking about it. Let's play the fucking game.